Hey, welcome back to COM110. And today we're going to be talking about Chapter 8. And now, Chapter 8 really focuses a lot on like the interpersonalness of building and maintaining relationships. A lot of times we hear like interpersonal communication and we think about relationships, romantic, friendships, family, all of that. And so this is really where we're going to look at of how we can have these relationships and then also the different stages that they take us through in life, and then also terminating them too, because that's a part of it. And so I want to show you some stats right away, and let's get into it. Did you know that the average American, okay, check this out, three best friends, five good friends, eight people they like but don't spend one-on-one time with, 50 acquaintances, and then 91 social friends. That's how many people we have in our life if you're an average American. Now, I look at this and I'm like surprised by the number, but also not really. And I want you to think that in your life growing up, specifically, let's talk about friends for a second. You go to elementary school and you're surrounded by the same, let's say like 20 other students. You're in the same class and you hang out every day, Monday through Friday, all of your subjects. You go to recess, you play, you have lunch together, all of that. You're close together. And so by the end of that school year, you kind of know each other fairly well now. You have some best friends and you have some people that you don't talk to a lot. But then throughout all the years of elementary school, all the years of middle school, junior high, high school, you're surrounded by all these people. There's a lot of research out here talking about friends specifically, that the most friends you have are going to be between those years. And then once you start going to college, that number starts dwindling. And not really specifically college, but once you like graduate and you get into the young adult years, we just get busy with life, maybe work, our families, maybe you get a romantic relationship. So friendship numbers, they really drastically decline after high school graduations. And we can see here, we only have five good friends. I think about all the people in my life that I would consider a best friend, a good friend, people I want to spend one-on-one time with, but I don't. And then acquaintances, 50, social media friends, 91. Those are pretty like big numbers, but also thinking like, how many people are my friend on Instagram? I know I probably have like around 500, but I think to myself, how many of them do I talk to? How many of them do I like their stuff? How many of them like my stuff back? I mean, it's just the way that we use these apps. So it's really interesting to think about these numbers. We have this data here and how it impacts our life. Now, I want you to think about the nature of relationships. And we all know that all relationships are not going to be the same. My relationship with my mom is very special to me. And then I think about my relationship with my dad, very special as well. But maybe we talk about different things. Maybe we kind of like manage conflict differently than the other one, right? I also think about my friendships with my best friend. I think about my relationship with my partner. I think about my relationship with my coworkers. They're all different in the way that we communicate. I like this thinking about relationships and thinking about how long you know the person. That's a pretty big thing. So that's where duration comes in. That's the length of your relationship with that person. I know a lot of times we think, oh, we've been best friends for years and years. And you think that's a really defining characteristic, which it can be. And then we also have contact frequency, though, and that's how often you communicate with the other person. Now, sometimes you might know somebody for a very long time, and then you don't really see each other often. Maybe you moved or they moved, and so the contact frequency going down. But then when you see them, it's like, oh, it's like time hasn't passed at all. You just instantly pick up and you're friendly and you're conversing a lot. Now, the more that we communicate with others, though, the closest our bond becomes to the other person. That just makes sense. The more we talk to them, the more we're going to talk to them about stuff, and then the stronger we're going to get with them. I like this last point because it says sometimes people think duration is a real test. which I did kind of mention, but it also depends on how often you communicate with the other person. I do think that different lifestyles, sometimes you just can't hang out with people the way that you used to. Remember talking about how when you graduate, life gets in the way, other responsibilities, family, romantic partners, all that. So thinking about if I'm not able to have this contact frequency as much as I would like to, does my relationship ultimately, does it hurt in the end? Sometimes it does, but also sometimes it doesn't because back to the first bullet point, not all relationships are going to be the same. Now, when we're thinking about like the duration and the frequency and all that, we want to think too about how we can like grow the relationship. And through this, it's going to be through sharing. So the more time we spend with someone, the more we interact with them, the more we're likely to share information about ourselves. I think that's true. Like what else are you going to talk about? You start talking about yourself. Now, we do know that not everyone can support us in the same manner. I think about the way that my mom supports me. She emotionally supports me really well. I'm able to tell her what's on my mind. I'm able to be expressive with her and all of that. And then I go to my dad for support. And sometimes that support looks different and he's going to do something that tactful support, right? Now we do have interaction variability. And these are the different types of conversations that you can have with that person. I think about two different best friends. And I think about all the conversations we have. One of them, I'm able to talk to him about sports. I'm able to talk to him about working because he's also a teacher as well. I'm able to talk to him about living in Phoenix because we're both kind of fairly new to Phoenix. And then my other friend, I'm able to talk to her about music. I'm able to talk to her about school as well, but different subjects than my first friend. I'm able to talk to her about just things on my mind, the heavy things. When I need help or advice, I go to her. And so those different types of conversations, that's what makes the relationship so nice and wonderful because we're able to talk about whatever's going on in our lives. And this comes into goals. And so thinking the goals and expectations we have out of being friends or out of having relationships with these people, we got to think to ourselves, okay, this is what I expect out of this person. I expect my friend that I just described to be supportive of me. She's going to be there and she's going to want to listen to me. Whereas my first best friend, I expect him to like kind of be humorous with me. I expect him to support me in a way of like remembering where we're from, which is San Diego. And so it's just differences, but those different types of conversations and how they support us in our lives. Now, we do get into significant relationships. And I know a lot of times when we see the word significant, we think of significant other, you think of a romantic partner, a boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other. And so it's much more than that, but it does include them. And so these relationships, they do have a huge impact on our behaviors and then also how we interpret these conversations. They're going to impact who we are and they're going to help us grow. So I think about my significant relationships as my fiance, he's definitely one. I think about my parents. I've told you that I'm very close with them. And then I think about in my life right now, who's a significant other, who's a significant relationship. And so definitely my boss, there's someone that like supports me and they're important to me, right? I do think about my two best friends that I mentioned. And so you can think, how can these relationships serve like their purpose? So first off, we got work, to advance our professional career. I mentioned that my boss is a significant person to me right now. And so I want to talk to him, make sure I'm doing a good job. How can I support SCC? How can I support our department here, the communication department? And so he's going to be able to help me, see the path of what could happen. Now, we also have task, which is a specific task that you accomplish with this other person. And this, again, could be my boss as well. We have a task of like, hey, we want to make, the communication department bigger. So our relationship together, we're going to work together and we have this specific goal in mind. Now, it's not just for me to do a good job, but we actually have something to do. I think group projects, this is a great example of, you're working together with the group, then you like finish the task, you accomplished it, and now you're done, and that's totally okay. And our last one, this includes social relationships, pleasure, control, and or affection. You just like being around the other person. It does say here that you have a specific person. Maybe you just like talking to them. You just like spending time with them. There's really no big, like, oh, we need to complete this task or you're going to help me get a promotion. You just enjoy time together, and that's good. That's it, you know? Now, thinking about all of this, the reasons why we have relationships. Now, these are the types of attraction we have as to why, why we feel drawn towards people. These aren't the reasons, though. These are the types. Next slide is the reasons. And so we have three different types of attraction. And I want you to think that this does not just mean romantic. You can think about friends that you've been attracted to, you've been drawn toward. It doesn't mean that, you find them beautiful. But the first one does involve that. And so it's the physical attraction. This is a degree to which you find someone aesthetically pleasing. Maybe you like their hair, you like their clothes, you like their smile, their face, anything like that. I always remember the way I met one of my best friends was because we both had black Converse on. And so we met each other and then we complimented each other on our shoes. And that was like that first little attraction that led to a conversation and that led to us opening, sharing, right? Think back to a few slides ago. Now we do have social attraction. And this one is thinking about you look at an individual, you see them as fun. You see them as entertaining, intriguing. You see them as someone that you want to be around. Maybe you look at them and you're like, I want to go out with them. Now, when I say go out, like just hanging out, right? I want to go out with them one weekend. I want to get to know them. I want to laugh, things like that. Socially, you think like they look like fun. Our last one here, kind of a little bit similar to what we've talked about, is task attraction. Now, this is a type of person that you look at and you're attracted to because they have some specific knowledge, they have some sort of specific skills that you think that's going to help me with my task, that's going to help me with my goal, and they can help me out. I think your book talks about how if you are bad with computers and your friend is good with computers, or you see someone and you see that they're good with computers, you're attracted to them because it's like, hey, can you help me out? I will do anything for you to help me with my computer. And so it does make sense thinking about, okay, you know, you need something out of this person, so you're attracted to them. So physical, social, and task attraction, these are all different types. But then we also have different reasons for attraction. Now, with different reasons, and give me 1 second here, these are the 5 different reasons as to why you could be attracted to someone. Now, the first one, physical proximity. You are just close to them, and it not close in the sense of like you know each other's secrets, but you see them regularly. Maybe they sit next to you in class, and so you always see them every Monday and Wednesday. You see their shoes. You see that you like their shoes. You're attracted to them because maybe socially they look fun. And so you always try to sit near them. That's the physical proximity. It says here that we are more likely to talk to people that we see frequently. Physical proximity, that's going to help us out. Now we got that physical attractiveness again. And so we're more likely to pay attention if you find that the other person's attracted. And so I do have some research here, and it says that research shows that males, they place more emphasis on physical attraction than females. Now, it doesn't necessarily say that females put more like meaning towards emotional attractiveness or like just feeling safe around someone, but just thinking about men, they really care about the physical attractiveness, and that's like something that's really important to them. We do have perceived gain here, which we're going to get into a little bit on our next slide. But this one, we're looking at like the rewards and costs. What are we getting out of this relationship and do I like it? We're going to get into this on the next slide. So I know I'm going through that one kind of quickly. We also have similarities and differences. And so we like people who are similar to us. We feel safe. We feel like seen. We feel like if they can understand us a little stronger, a little better, right? However, we do like people who are different. We're intrigued by them, right? And so I want you to think about the saying like birds of a feather flock together, or different, what is it, opposites attract, right? And so we do like that. Now, I do want to share some research that I know of, and that in long-term romantic committed relationships, you need to be more similar than different because a long term, I'm speaking like years here, long term, you're going to need to have someone that's kind of similar to you. You enjoy the same things because the novelty of new things constantly, it's going to get kind of boring and you're not going to like it. Now, think about if you're in a long term relationship and you're too different in many areas. In the beginning, it's cute, they teach you new music. Maybe they're messy and you're super neat and you have to tell yourself, hey, it's okay. It's not that big of a deal. But after 5, 10 years of telling them to pick up their shoes, you get upset by it one day. And so, really, differences, yeah, we can be attracted to them, but you want to think in short term relationships. Similarities with long term relationships, that is the key here. We can still be attracted to people that are opposite than us, that have differences, but just be aware of that based off of that research. Our last one here is disclosure. And reasons for attraction is the more that people disclose, we're going to like them more. It can create support, trust between me and you. It's going to help create a bond. But the big one here is it's got to be appropriate and it's got to be reciprocated. I can't be the only one disclosing my whole heart to you and you're not sharing anything back. So you can see the attraction here, like you open up to me and I like that and I want to open up to you. And then it just kind of builds, right? Now, thinking about perceived gain, I know I kind of went through it a little quickly. It really focuses on the exchange theory. Perceived gain is wondering, what am I getting out of this relationship? And what am I attracted to? Am I happy what I'm getting out of? Am I happy with what I'm paying for in a sense? And so we will form relationships with people who can offer us rewards that outweigh the cost. Now, I want you to think rewards, these are things that we want to acquire. Maybe you make friends with someone in school because their reward is, they're going to go to school every day. You have someone that you can talk to in case you're going to miss school. You have someone to study with, but costs. Now, these are undesirable things that we don't want to expend a lot of energy to do. A cost is maybe they text you at like weird times of the night. Maybe, they always want to hang out with you outside of schoolwork. They always want to they think you're their best friend now. And so the cost is your energy. The cost is your time. Have you ever had a clinging friend who always wanted to be around you? That's the cost, but the reward is they're still a friend. Now, I want you to remember that a good relationship, any type, right? They're going to have fewer costs and it's going to have more rewards. You're going to get more out of it, perceived gain. So, partners will also consider alternatives in the relationship because you're getting like all these rewards. Hopefully, you're not it's not costing you too much. You're not going to be looking for other people. You're not going to be looking around at like other friendships or thinking like, oh, this is like taking too much out of me. Now, if we have good quality alternatives, that's going to make us think, what more can I get out there? And so we do have a comparison level, and there is some like weird math that we can look at, but we're not going to get too much into it. I just want to share with you these two key terms. And so the comparison level, CL, That's the minimum standard you're willing to tolerate. So thinking about your friend, from your class who's texting you all throughout the night, they want to hang out with you all the time. And it's like, listen, I don't mind you texting me. I can put it on Do Not Disturb. The minimum standard, I can tolerate some of it. But then when I look at the comparison of alternatives, that's dealing with other people, the comparison between my current relationship with my friend in school, the rewards, and then maybe what am I going to get out in another relationship? Maybe a different friendship of someone not texting me all the time, someone not like always nagging me to hang out, right? So with alternatives, think about like other relationships and the way we kind of like compare them. I know it seems a little shady, but this is something that we do. Now, for this chapter, we focus a lot on the coming together, coming apart stages of a romantic relationship. And I truly, really love this theory. I'm going to move on to the next slide. I know it looks like a lot, but this is KNAPP stages of relationships. KNAPP, KNAPP. And looking at this research, focusing on the different stages that typically romantic relationships experience. And do you think it's interesting to think about how friendships could experience these stages? I'm thinking about going up the staircase, becoming stronger, and then going down the staircase when you break up, right? Most research has been on romantic relationships. So that's where we're going to focus on today. Now, on the next two slides, I have definitions for each of these key terms, but I'm going to stay here for a second, just kind of describing it. And so you can see at the very bottom of the blue area, the coming together, the very first stage is initiating. And what this means, don't get too deep into it, right? Initiating is you say hello, maybe you smile at someone, maybe you even introduce yourself. I know your book says that you can smile, you can wink at them, but this conversation, it's very superficial. It's not personal at all. So I want you to imagine that you're at a party, you see someone across the room, you're maybe physically attracted to them. They're surrounded by lots of people, so you have social attraction too. And so you initiate it by maybe they look at you and you smile at them. And that's it. That's the first stage. So then the second stage, we're going up the staircase now to experimenting. And I want you to think about like in chemistry, if you have like, all the different potions and you're experimenting, what's going to happen here when I add a little bit of this, and this. And so experimenting focuses on you're trying to figure out the person. You're trying to figure out like, do I want to continue this relationship? Maybe at the party, you walk over there. You start talking to them, and yeah, you had that initiating superficial conversation. Hi, my name is Brianna. This is my major, not too much. But then you're seeing like you're asking a little bit deeper questions, but not too deep. And so it's very casual, and you're just trying to find some like common ground here. Maybe you're talking and they share like, oh, I don't drink coffee, but I like matcha. And then you think, oh, I like matcha too. You find that's like similarities, and then you can plan maybe a date or a hangout at a matcha place. It's nice to start figuring out those similarities right away, because that's what's going to help you like start to grow. So around experimenting, you're seeing what happens, and then we get to intensifying. Now, this is when the conversations start getting a little deeper. I look at intensifying as like now you're going on like dates, right? It says here that your conversations are more serious, interactions are more like meaningful. You enjoy the time you spend together, and you start using we language. What should we do this weekend? What do you think that we should see at the movie theaters, right? You're intensifying by making it more intense. I do want to share something right here at that stage of experimenting and intensifying. Most friendships, this is as far as it will go. Not even totally too intensifying, because thinking about how often you hang out with a friend, how serious you talk to them about things, it's going to hang out here like at experimenting, or maybe a little bit of intensifying, but not really. So most friendships are already going beyond that. I just want to kind of point that out. I find that very interesting. Now, the fourth stage is integrating. So check out how we're almost at the top there. Integrating, this is when you're like truly a couple. Your Facebook official, maybe in your Instagram, in your edit profile, you have each other's like handles there. I know it's so cringy. I also think too that maybe you're integrating them by posting them on Instagram. Maybe you haven't done a hard launch yet, but you're doing soft launches here. You're integrating them into your social media world. It says here that your expectations of the relationship, they're higher. You expect them. You expect something out of them, right? To be there for dinner, to love, to support you, all of that. Now, integrating does also mean like meeting your family. They become like incorporated into families' meals, maybe holidays with their families. It does also say too that the time you spend, it's just growing and growing together. You're truly like integrating them into your life. And so I think if you decide to break up at this moment, it's kind of hard because it's not just like a simple break. Now, our very last one here, this is bonding. And when I look at bonding, I think to myself that you're trying to reveal to the world that like you're in a relationship. This relationship exists. You can also think about it when people get engaged, when they get married, if there's some kind of like government paperwork involved, something legal. I think about like a lease, a mortgage on a house. You can also think about adopting like a child or maybe even a pet. Just like something is like bonding you together. Now, when we come up here, you can think, okay, we're married now. We have a lease on our house, a mortgage on our house. We adopted a cat. And so now I always envision you're like dancing at the top, relational maintenance here. You have to go on the date nights. You have to like care for each other. We're going to get into relational maintenance a little bit more, but now we're at the top. But if we don't like each other anymore, we're having differences, we're going to start going down. And that is the coming apart stages. So I'm actually going to move on just to change the scenery. So you can see everything that I talked about here with the coming together. And now we're going to get into coming apart. So check out how we're at the very top here, differentiating. You can see my cursor, and we're going to go down. So the first one is differentiating. This is when we start to, both parties are trying to figure out their own identities. Who am I outside of this relationship? Now, their differences are emphasized and similarities, we're just like overlooking them. We do also engage in more disagreements. I look at this as like we're nitpicking each other. Then we go down another step and we go down into circumscribing. That's when you really limit your interactions with this person. You don't want to hang out with them. You don't want to talk to them. Communication is going to lessen in quality and also in quantity. And then intimacy decreases. They're just not there. You're not kissing them. You're not touching them. You're just kind of like over it. Then we get to stagnating. And this one, I feel like a lot of relationships could live for a very long time. And it's not growing the relationship, it's not improving. And maybe there's just awkward conversations. Neither one of you want to start taking the next steps towards terminating a relationship or even towards like addressing, hey, we need help here, right? We need couples therapy. We need to discuss what our problem is here. If we think that it's too awkward, we're going to start avoiding each other. It says the partners do not want to see or speak to each other. And that's just sad, especially if you're living together. You just don't want to hang out. You don't want to be near each other. And then lastly is terminating. That's when you have the conversation. The parties decided to end, terminate the relationship. And then also time is a factor here. This means how quickly one can break up and then you feel totally away from the other person, versus sometimes it's like long and drawn out and like just awkward, right? I do want to say that the relational maintenance, we're at the very top of the staircase. Relationships, they need maintenance. they need care. I want you to think about a car or a plant, You need to take your car in for maintenance. You need to give your plant water every so often. You need to change like fertilize it, change the soil. Relationships are the same way. So when we're up there at the top of the staircase, you have to think you need the date nights. And you need the fun date nights of like the cooking classes, the art classes, going for walks, at the zoo, going for walks at the park. Something that's fun and different besides just eating at oregano's or wherever. Now, maintenance can make a relationship more satisfying and successful. There's a lot of research out here about this and how we need to actually actively engage in this relationship. Now, strategic plans. What are we going to do specifically? Cooking lessons. We're going to go once a month. Maybe you get a subscription to like Top Golf and you go there often. And everyday interactions. So no, you can't go to Top Golf every day, but everyday interactions such as small talk, asking each other about your day, just getting off your phones at dinner time and just looking at one another and having that conversation. This is so important to maintain your relationship. So you need to do the fun stuff, but I think a lot of love needs to be put into those everyday interactions. You know, there's a lot of research out there that says, you need to kiss your partner goodbye when you leave them because those that aren't kissed, their satisfaction with the relationship is actually down. It decreases. So here's some behaviors, 7 behaviors that some researchers found to help maintain the relationship. First off, we have positivity. So positivity used by communicating with partners in a happy and supportive manner. Now, there is some research here that I want to share with you, and it was talking about, the way that new married couples interact with each other, and that there's a lot of positivity when they're in a conflicting time. So when they're in conflict, there's positivity in the way that they're talking to each other, saying like, okay, you got this, or we got this. They're trying to be kind to each other. And so we need to continue that positivity throughout our entire relationships and throughout our entire lives. Another behavior here is being open with one another. This allows your partner and yourself to focus on communication on the relationship. What's working for you, what's not working for you, what are some problems here, and then also just like trying to make the relationship the best it can be. We do have assurances as number 3. These are words that emphasize your commitment. We constantly need to be reassured that we're loved and wanted and appreciated. So keep doing that. Networking is communicating with friends and family, and this involves, talking to people that know you both, people who also give into like your relationship and want to see you both succeed. And then number 5 is sharing tasks and doing work and household errands. One of the best first dates, and when I say first, I mean like date number 5 or 6 with someone. Go to Target with them. See how they shop. Because you need to be able to shop together and you need to be able to like walk down the aisles and engage in like these boring routine errands. Sharing these tasks, that's going to help you with your relationship of your house, sharing the task of like being supportive of each other, just like showing that you're there. Now 1 through 5, these are like the original 5 maintenance behaviors. The researchers, I think it was Canary and Stafford, that they also added 2 more behaviors here. Conflict management, thinking about how couples deal with managing conflict, which is actually our next chapter. Are they able to have conflict with each other? Do they just yell and scream or cry? And then also advice, how they're able to support each other and give advice and just be there in each other's lives. These behaviors, all 7 of them, I think they're really great and they're really nice to keep that relationship going. Now, one of the last things I want to talk to you about is relationship dialectics. I want you to think this is a theory and it looks at the interactions allowing for couples to like maintain that unity with one another, but while still dealing with, and I say quote unquote conflict, while they're still dealing with maintaining the relationship and also trying to maintain a relationship with themselves interpersonally. Now, every day in our lives, we're going to have pushes and pulls. And in our relationships, they're going to call us different times of the day. We're going to be drawn towards them differently. And so it's like, how do we deal with the struggles in our relationships, the big ones and the small ones, right? So that's the dialectical tension. How do we deal with struggles? I'm going to show you the 5 struggles that most people deal with. And so, first off, we have separation integration. I want you to think about when you are in a romantic relationship, the integration of each other. Maybe you moved in together. So the integration now is all of your stuff is together. But the separation of like, this is my side of the bathroom and this is your side of the bathroom. We're trying to keep our identity still. Just because I become in a romantic relationship doesn't mean that I totally lose who I am as a person. And I think this can go down into like when you get married, if the woman typically changes their last name, but the separation is like, maybe I don't want to change my name, you know? But the integration is I want to get married and I want to be in this partnership, right? We also have openness and closeness. And this one looks at disclosure, how much you're sharing with this person, but also privacy. I like to have a little bit of privacy. I want to be open with my partner and I want to tell him everything that's going on in my life. But I also think about closeness as in, am I going to bring up everything that's ever happened to me, even in my life before I met him? Probably not, but I'm not like hiding it from him in some way. But that's just kind of how we are in life. We like choose to share things. Can you see the dialectic here of do I say everything that's ever happened to me or do I keep some things private? Now, our third one here is the ideal and the real. And this one looks at the way that, how we perceive as something's good and how we perceive as something's bad. I look at this and your book has some examples here of, what my perception is about something. Thinking that like, hey, I might think that my relationship is perfect, but maybe realistically it's not. Maybe it's just very, very good. So we gotta be realistic with ourselves and we gotta be realistic with our perceptions of each other and our relationship. Our fourth one is predictability and novelty. And this is looking at, predictability. I can predict that my boyfriend is going to make dinner every single night. I work, so he makes dinner. I can predict that. But maybe the novelty is like, man, I really wish one night we would go out. We need date night. We need to go out and explore the city. Now, it's nice to have that predictability, knowing that I can depend on him. I have that stability, that safety, but also the novelty of like, I would be surprised, right? Now, if I was surprised every single night, that would get boring as well. And then we've already gotten into this a little bit, similarity and difference. We need to have some level of similarity, but we also need to have some level of differences as well. I like that my boyfriend has different tastes in music than me because we're able to share, different bands. But if I was only listening to different music all the time, i.e., his music, I might get kind of bored by it. Or maybe not bored, but just like overwhelmed of like not knowing any songs. So the similarity will help with thinking how we can connect on something. I tell him I like a specific band and he tells me he likes it too. It just makes me happier and we can listen to it and share it together. This is the last thing I want to talk to you, and it's about love, and it is about dating. And so I've been talking to you about attraction. I've been talking to you about, the dialectical tensions we have, the stages we go with relationships. And so there is a ton of research about dating. And so dating, it does involve specific communication expectations. You go out on a date with someone and you kind of have expectations there. You think about like, I want to get to know them because I have a very specific date goal. So the next one is dating involves specific date goals, or people on dates, they have specific goals. You might think to yourself, you're gonna laugh at me, that's fine. You think to yourself, okay, on this date, I expect a long-term relationship. So I'm just gonna kiss them and that's it. Or maybe I don't really care about this person too much. I just want to hook up with them and move on, right? Or maybe I don't want this to be a really big date because we're just friends with benefits and we're just going to hang out at my house, Netflix and chill, whatever. We have different goals and you got to know what they are. Now, there are specific date elements out there. So I want you to think about where you go on a date matters. If you go to a coffee shop and just talk, very casual. If you go to a very fancy restaurant, what are the nonverbal signs here? These specific date elements, they're going to help you out. Another thing that I want you to know is that dates are dyadic. So it's usually between you and another person, right? Or dating, it's going to be a couples-based activity. You can't go on a group date, but everybody needs to be in their own dyad. And lastly, dates, I know it sounds silly, but it involves feelings. Maybe you like the person a lot. Maybe you're scared to be vulnerable with them. Maybe you don't know what they're feeling about you. Now, I really, really urge you to go to page 272 in your book because we talk here about dating scripts. And what that means is like, we've seen dates, we've seen what dating should look like in the media. Maybe you've been on dates, maybe you've heard about dates, but we have an expectation of how dates should be. And so there are a bunch of statistics here from Match.com from 2018 talking about dates, talking about how 55.8% of people, they didn't go on any first dates in the year 2018, and only 12.6% went on a first date. That's really not a lot, right? It also says here too, 25.1% of people, they have a checklist when it comes to finding a romantic partner. 66.7% believe that loving someone is hard work. This is just like such interesting data to look at and think about the way that we deal with dating and how we deal with it differently, you know? Now, there's also some more research. It was one research. Here's a new one. And they looked at the way, specifically scripts in the 70s, of like the sequence of a date. This is what it should look like. And so they had men answer 15 things what they thought happened on a date in a row. And so you can see on page 272, first thing, picked up date. Second, met parents. Third, left. Fourth, picked up friends. 5, confirmed plans. 6, talked, joked, laughed. 7, went to movies, show party. 8, they ate dinner. And then just all the things that they did. And then the women also listed those things that happened, but they were more focused on interpreting the date themselves. So exactly what happened, they said they groomed and dressed, they were nervous, they were picked up by dates, so that involves the other person. They were introduced to parents. It says courtly behavior, the male opened the door for them. And so just looking at this research, women are going to analyze the dates a little bit harder, stronger than males are in these heterosexual relationships from the 70s. Now, there is something that I saw here thinking about, okay, how do first dates happen? Do they go well? Do they not go well? Things like that. And so this kind of falls into our love styles. This is the very, very last thing that I'm going to talk to you. Thank you for holding on with me today. And so these are 6 different love styles that people typically have. Now we can have multiple of these at the same time, but it just really focuses on maybe what you're looking for in life. And so our attitudes about love, our attitudes about romantic relationships, they're going to change based off of these styles. So the first style we have is Eros, and this one emphasizes love, it emphasizes, physical beauty, maybe emotional intensity. And this one, you want that strong commitment. You want to find that love with someone. You're all about that monogamous, one-on-one, let's be boyfriend, girlfriend, partners right away. Now, the second one, Storge, is that we're going to look at the stability of this person. You want to think about the yeah, the like closeness you have with them. So I look at this as you can love your friends and you love your friends for a very long time. And then maybe this turns into a romantic relationship, but it's love that rises slowly because it's based off of stability. They're not going to go anywhere. Think about the word stability with this one. They both start with ST. Now we have Ludic here. And I want you to look at this one like it's ludicrous, it's crazy. They view love as a game. They want to have multiple partners here. They look at, deception and manipulation. They have a low tolerance for commitment. They want to hang out with you and they want to have fun, but they also don't want to have this monogamous relationship with you. Now we have agape, which is, you're really other centered love. You're focusing on the other person a lot. You have a gentle caring, you have tolerance for others. You're all about the other person. And that can be really nice, right? Especially if you're the one receiving all this love. But you have to think too, like, you need love too, and you need to think, what makes me happy? Is it just making the other person happy and showing them love? Now we have pragma, and this one is known as practical love. You see some themes here with the words. And so with practical love, we look at logic, we look at reason about why these people should be together. Great example here is arranged marriages. It doesn't deal with passion. It doesn't deal with that, emotions, the intensity, but it does deal with like, this is practical for us to get married. And arranged marriages, they do work. Now, you can also think you're going to find a romantic partner for financial stability. Maybe they want to be a parent and you want to be a parent too, or just that simple companionship as well. Now, our last one, mania. This is all about, similar to Ludic a little bit, this type of love is insecure and you need that constant reassurance and you're really focusing a lot on like jealousy and uncertainty and emotional upheaval. You're a manic when it comes to love and like you're going a little insane, right? Now, this one is you just need that constant reassurance. Now, all of these, I want you to think should not be considered as like mutually independent. You can be a little bit of some of them. But it's just important to remember that, what's my love style, this stage in my life right now, what am I feeling? And also, what is my partner feeling and what style could they possibly be experiencing as well? I know that was a lengthy one, but I really find this chapter interesting. I think that talking about dating and romantic relationships is just kind of fun. So I hope you did enjoy it. I will see you around for the next chapter. Bye.